If you guys think I can't shut up about Arwen, the way I could talk about this woman, I could fill dissertations. I could talk about her all day. So I was exposed to Lord of the Rings in elementary school. So my first impressions of the Lord of the Rings, I think, are going to be a lot different than somebody who got to it when they were older. And while I love Arwen and I can talk about her all day, and she's kind of this formative piece of how I see femininity and how I see womanhood, my real favorite character of Lord of the Rings that was a woman was Eowyn. And it wasn't until I was a little bit older and started to deconstruct my faith a little bit that I realized why. Now, this might be an incredibly niche experience that nobody other than me has had. But if this is true for literally anybody else, I would love to know about it. So for a little bit of background about me, hi, I'm Christine. I've been a Lord of the Rings fan since I was 10, 11 years old. But while I was a Lord of the Rings fan, I was also growing up in the American Evangelical Church. And one thing that I think the Rohirrim culture and the American Evangelical Church have in common is a capacity for martyrdom that Eowyn embodies and aspires to. Because when we meet Eowyn, she's not really concerned with her higher purpose or what Eru Ilúvatar has for her life. All she really knows is the here and now, and what she knows is that the War of the Ring has taken everything from her, and she wants to just lay it down on the battlefield. And this is a really hard thing to describe about the American Evangelical Church in the late 90s, early 2000s, unless you were in it. I've talked to other friends who grew up Catholic or grew up normal Protestant, and they look at me like I have 7 heads. But there was this really big push for us to recognize our otherness as Christians and know that the government or bad actors were going to come after us, and we would have to consider whether we were willing to be martyrs to our cause. This was a thing with Columbine, the Columbine shooting, where the narrative among Christians is that those kids were shot because they were Christian. They were specifically asked, are you a Christian? And then when they said yes, they were shot. And it was a thing, if you're in a situation like that, you have to say yes. You have to be willing to die for God because he was willing to die for you. And I'm not saying that the Rohirrim were like that, but I am saying that when you are a little girl who is being inundated into a religion like that, it is very easy to identify most with the character who has the most capacity for martyrdom. And Eowyn, for her part, she goes for it. She throws herself onto the battlefield. She kills the Witch King. She is brought very close to death because of it, and it's because of Aragorn that she heals. And it's at that point, she's done what she set out to do. She set out to go on the battlefield and essentially die for her cause. And now that she hasn't, she doesn't really know where to go now. And she's left behind for the battle at the Black Gate, and she's just kind of lost. And this is where Faramir shows up. And it is her courtship or her conversations with Faramir and the Houses of Healing that really get Eowyn's head on straight. And then at the end of all of that, she's I don't want to be on the battlefield anymore. I want to be a healer. And it would be very easy to be a man cured Eowyn's martyr complex. But I don't think that's the case. I think she met someone who was just as hurt and burned, literally burned, from the war as she had been metaphorically. And it was meeting this man that allowed her to kind of shift her view of herself a little bit. She's more than just a body to throw at a cause. And there's a lot of really good reasons to love Eowyn that have nothing to do with the psychic damage that a lot of little girls took from the American Evangelical Church. She is beautiful. She is headstrong. Her romance with Faramir, even aside from this context, is beautiful. It shows that there's life after rejection, because she was so in love with Aragorn, but she wasn't really in love with Aragorn. She was in love with what Aragorn represented, and her story arc, it allows her to get over Aragorn, and that is a big object lesson for little girls reading The Lord of the Rings, where there is life after rejection from a man. And furthermore, you'll find a man that is even better for you than the one that rejected you. This woman is also for the people. She would have made an incredible ruler had something happened to Eomer on the battle at the Pelennor Fields. And Theoden knew this, which is why like he left her in charge to begin with. Like it could have been very easy, like, oh, you're a girl, like you can't be in battle, therefore you can't rule. But Theoden knew better. He was like, no, like if anybody can't do it apart from my nephew, it should be my niece. All of that is well and truly good, but I don't know if anybody has made nobody on my For You page has made has drawn the line between identifying with EOWYN and the culture of just lay it all down for your cause of the Rohirrim, and growing up in the American evangelical church where you're taught that one of the greatest things that you can do is die for your God. If this is true for anybody else apart from me, I would love to hear about it. But even if this is true, like for just me, just the ability to say something like, part of the reason why I loved EOWYN is because of her capacity, like, because being a kid and identifying with like the martyr culture of the Rohirrim, like that was freeing to say. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do that. But if this is true for like literally anybody else, that means we have a lot to deconstruct.